Yes, take two, episode 2. Welcome to episode 2 of Into the Obscure, the Stephen Kostanski Experience, which I know is a very obscure name for an episode, but that's why we're here, right? That's what we do. So,
Yes.
so Stephen Kostanski, let's open up with a little bit of information on who Stephen Kostanski is. We don't know everything about the guy, but we do know he directed Psycho Goreman, probably the one movie that's going to get referenced at least once an episode because it kind of got the ball rolling on this whole thing.
We actually know very little about the guy, except for he directed Psycho Goreman.
and a few other really awesome
others.
things that we're going to be discussing today. He's part of Astron-6, which is a filmmaking group, if I remember reading correctly. And it kind of got started because we were like, okay, who directed this film? You know, talking about Psycho Goreman, which today's the episode where we actually get in depth on that. Yes. We found out he directed a movie called Manborg, which masterpiece of cinematography. And then there's like a YouTube short that we're going to be discussing called Laser Ghosts 2 Return to Laser Cove. But there's going to be some tie-ins to some future episodes as well. And at the end of this episode, we're going to be discussing a little bit more about our trip to the Oddities and Curiosities Expo up in Tulsa. And also some of the stuff we actually got to see, like walking around, some of the interesting things around Tulsa. If you're in the area, and you might want to go check out.
Yeah. Also, there will be a vlog type video that should be going live around the same time as this. I already have it edited. I just have to finish it. So that should be going live too if you want to see some footage and see some stuff from the Oddities Expo.
Yes, yeah,
up in Tulsa.
Yeah. And so we're going to start the episode. We're going to work backwards, chronologically speaking, through the Stephen Kostanski films that we've watched, because we actually watched them in reverse chronological order. We started with Psycho Goreman. Would you like to lead us off on this amazing journey through this phenomenal film, Wingles?
Oh my God. First off, Psycho Goreman does not deserve to be as good as it is. It is just, it was one of those things where we were just scrolling through random movies as we do and came across the poster and we were like, what is this? Surprisingly, most of our movies are just randomly picked off of good poster design. So that's just something if you're an indie filmmaker, maybe just keep that in mind. If you don't have the budget for marketing, make a good poster.
Yeah, because we've watched a few films based on the poster alone, and they've all been pretty good.
Yeah. But Psycho Goreman is essentially the story of two little kids who end up finding this gem that allows them to control basically the supreme evil being of the universe. And they end up going on like a weird little adventure, and they're able to control Psycho Goreman, but he is absolutely reluctant to everything that they want to do. He wants to destroy the universe, and they are children who want to play games.
Yes.
And
then and one of the children's name is Mimi. She is the star of the show. She's the sister. And the movie essentially begins with them playing a game called Crazy Ball, which I'm not going to go over the rules because they end up going over them in the movie anyways. But
plus, they're convoluted and don't really make sense.
Yeah, none of it makes sense, which is amazing.
It's actually a meme in the movie that nobody really understands what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah, and so what we end up getting is them playing Crazy Ball. Mimi beats Luke, and his punishment is to dig a gigantic hole so she can bury him alive and steal his bed, make a super bed out of it. It's pretty amazing. So they find this when they're digging the hole, they find this thing called, I believe it was called the Gem of Paraxidite. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
I would have no idea. I do not remember things like that.
Right? It's one of those things that just kind of came to me because we were talking about it yesterday, and I was like, oh wait, I think I remembered I said it and it felt right. So we're gonna run with it, and if I'm wrong, I'm just gonna look dumb, which is fine. Anyways, they find this Gem of Paraxidite. It's this glowing pink gem, and Mimi takes it. And later that night, Psycho Goreman, which is not his name to begin with. He didn't really have a name to begin with. He was just basically regarded as the great evil of the universe. And he ends up breaking out and going and killing some people in pretty savage yet hilarious ways. And you come to find out that Mimi holding this gem, she can control him. And that's where everything kind of starts snowballing into some of what I consider the finest film work of all time. It's definitely my favorite indie film ever. Like
Yeah,
ever.
yeah, it definitely has to be really high up there because it has amazing practical effects and it really just does a great job. They have a lot of other characters from the universe and from other places. They bring in so many other characters. I think they're called the Templars, were like some of the best.
Yes.
It's basically like Psycho Goreman's crew before he got banished to Earth.
Okay, so
And
the Templars were the ones that sealed him away. His crew was called the Paladins Obsidian.
oh, that's what it was. Yeah,
Yes.
the Paladins. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and it's just absolutely amazing. Like the practical effects and everything. It really takes you back to like the golden age of like the late 80s, early 90s when they made all the costumes, all the effects were practical, like everything was just done way before like the Matrix and things really started taking things off where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna make special effects for everything. We're gonna CGI everything. It really nails that nostalgia of just that era of special effects.
Yeah, and the costume design in and of itself, like the costume design gave such Power Ranger vibes to me. Like
Yes,
almost
that's
everything
exactly
felt.
what I was going to say.
Yeah, it almost felt like all Power Ranger villains,
Mhm.
which except for like way nastier, like the washing machine with corpses in it that just shot blood at people. That's a
Mhm.
thing.
Oh yeah.
It's an amazing thing, but that is definitely a thing. What makes this movie amazing and why we reference it so much is that it has the perfect blend of really good, interesting storytelling with like almost meme level humor.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot, they actually go into some exposition explaining where Psycho Goreman came from, and it has some really good effects, but he gets cut off because like she's kind of just really mean. And so she'll just like cut him off, like, yeah, I don't care. And like, so you'll see this like really awesome battle scene start, like, yeah, I don't really care. And it cuts back to reality. It's like, what the heck, man?
Mhm.
And then there are
Yeah.
certain characters that are just essentially like comedic relief throughout as well.
Yeah, that little girl, I don't know where they found her, but her acting and her portraying that role was just on point, especially for a child actor because having worked with like child actors in the past, they're really really difficult. And like that little girl is just on point with her comedic timing and just coming off is just like this like adorable little girl, but also just like such a bully,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
just
bully's the best
really,
word.
really terrible, really, really terrible person.
Yeah, and it almost overshadows how good the actor who played Luke, the brother, did at
Mhm.
being like the more like the timid brother who's
The
trying to
submissive one.
yeah, that's trying to summon the courage, cuz there's a scene where Psycho Goreman invades his dreams and tries to get him to kind of turn on Mimi. And in that scene, I think it was very underrated that that kid portrayed that role really well in that scene. Like
Mhm.
there was like it felt natural, it felt real, like it didn't feel like it was coming off of a script, which is really impressive for these child actors to do that, which makes me
Yeah.
wonder, did these kids just play like the real versions of themselves? Did somebody convince them that everything was happening was real?
Oh. Yeah, no, I wonder if that little girl is just that terrible in real life or if she's a good actor.
Yeah, one of my favorite people in the whole movie though, and you'll actually, if you go through and watch everything we're going to discuss today, you'll find out he's in all of Stephen Kostanski's stuff that we're going to discuss.
Mhm.
He played the dad in this movie, and he is hysterical. He's like he's hysterical, but like you don't want to root for him because he's kind of a piece of crap at points,
Mhm.
because he ends up like hurting his wrist, and he milks it for like the whole movie. Like calls into work for like 2 weeks straight and tells his wife she has to pick up extra shifts and things like that. Like he's kind of a dirtbag, but he has some of the funniest. He has my favorite quote in the whole movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The thing with the dad is like he doesn't even really seem like I feel like dirtbag is a little extreme for how he is. I just kind of feel like he's just he's just lazy and like really doesn't want to like he doesn't seem like a bad guy by any means. Like the character and the actor and things like that. Like he just doesn't seem like he's terrible. He's just like I don't know. I almost see like a mirroring between him and the son, while the mother is a lot like the daughter. Like the way that
See
they
that?
kind of match those up of like the mother is a little bit more like domineering, whereas the dad is just kind of submissive and just kind of takes whatever is thrown at him. And he's just kind of like he just wants some attention and some sympathy. So like he hurt his wrist and just milked it through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say this though. He looks after his kids in that movie.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
he tries to help his kids out. Especially
Yeah.
the daughter, which is ironic because like the daughter takes to the dad a lot more and the son takes to the mom a lot more because the mom, while she's a little bit more loud and you know, kind of in your face, kind of like the daughter, she's more about the following rules and doing things like they're supposed to be done. While the dad, although he's more like the submissive kind of just like background kind of character, he is also like he doesn't care as much about like what should be considered the rules because he helps Mimi actually kind of save Psycho Goreman.
Mhm.
He tells a whole story about the baseball cards in the back of the van, and he's like, maybe you should
Yeah.
help your strange friend, your strange new friend. That one I'm not going to spoil. But that was a good little
Yeah.
line. But I will say
but
my favorite quote real quick because this is, I mean, it's amazing. At one point, we had mentioned the Paladin's Obsidian, which are Psycho Goreman's cronies, and he uses a TV to send a signal across the galaxy to reach out to them to come find him. And whenever he does, the TV starts bleeding. Well, later on in the movie, they're at that barn, and the dad's trying to watch the TV because that's like his thing. He just wants to watch TV. And he's sitting there trying to look at it and study it, and he just goes, huh, yeah, this TV will not stop bleeding. And it was just a throwaway line. It was just like this whole scene was just a throwaway scene because it just goes into the next thing and is never addressed again, and it was hilarious. Like, it was just perfect timing.
Yeah.
Which that guy's name is Adam Brooks, the actor that plays the dad that you see across the other movies as well. His name is Adam Brooks, and he really I think solidified that movie. He was like a great glue that kind of bound the story together. Like, he was a really great background character.
Yeah.
Probably not as good as Alistair, but
I was gonna say, you know who really stole the show is Alistair. Alistair was
that kid was out there making big brain moves. Okay, he's dude's got to have IQ 200 at this point.
Watch the movie, you'll get the reference.
Yeah, you'll get the reference. But you know, Psycho Goreman isn't the only amazing Stephen Kostanski film we're going to be discussing today.
Yeah.
Boy, did we stumble on a gem. So, after learning, like, there's a story behind how we ended up here. After learning the name of the director, we decided to look. We went into Voodoo. We use Voodoo quite a bit for stuff. Went into Voodoo and typed in his name because then you could find all the stuff he's associated with. And right there was a movie called Manborg. Now, lucky us, Manborg was free with ads on Voodoo, although I may end up buying that movie at some point because it is an absolute gem.
Yeah, and the ads were very poorly placed.
Yeah, the ads, that was like my biggest gripe about watching them with ads was that their timing was awful because we would be like getting into something that was happening, all of a sudden, bam, ad. Like, they have no concept of timing.
It's like somebody's about to get punched and it's like minute and a half ad while the hand is still in the air. It's like, oh. And yeah, I probably should have just paid for that.
I will say that at least whenever they would come back from ads, it would skip back a few seconds. So that way it wasn't like directly in.
But it was still just distracting.
Yes. But the movie itself. Oh boy. So Manborg. Go ahead.
The most gratuitous use of green screen I have ever seen in my life.
Ever. And I used to have a green screen. Like, that's something. So to lay a little foundation of what Manborg is, what this amazing film is, it starts off, there's a battle going on between some minions of hell and the military. Looks like World War II, by the way. Like, it looks very
definitely
old school.
Dated equipment.
Yes, like the outfits, everything looks super old. And you come to find out, actually, I believe it tells you in the little opening text that they show that the main dude from hell, his name is Count Draculon. So he's like a vampire robotic demon from hell.
Yeah, cyborg.
Yes, he is a cyborg. And how do you fight a cyborg? With a Manborg.
Mhm.
So during this battle, this is the opening scene. This man's brother dies, and he gets messed up pretty bad. And he gets taken somewhere. I can't remember exactly where, but he gets taken somewhere and converted into the Manborg.
Mhm.
And this is where this movie immediately, I mean, right out the gate, becomes unhinged? And amazing. I mean, so first off, there's like a lot of stop motion animation points that they do in the beginning of the movie with the character that they don't do later in the movie with the same character, with Manborg. But he ends up getting turned into, it was like a factory or something. Because there were there were several automated arms putting him together. That was what the stop motion was. And he gets turned into this Manborg. And right out the gate, this was the setting. This was the one that made us say, okay, yes, this movie. He has no control over the volume of his voice. None. And so
I can relate.
Right? Same sometimes. So this guy is walking, right? He's like walking through the street after getting out of the little facility he was in. Yeah. He's walking down the street and he sees this like gang of dudes beating up somebody. And it like you think, oh man, he's going to interject. He's going to mess these dudes up. He's going to be a hero. He looks and just as loud as could be, nope, and turns and walks away.
Just nopes the fuck out.
That
had nothing to do with it.
That was the second that we realized, oh my god, this movie is going to be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's actually a very plottish plot line to this movie. They're trying to get back. There's a resistance coming because the minions of hell have taken over Earth, and there's a resistance building of people trying to get back. Oh yeah, there's Number One Man. I almost forgot to mention Number One Man. The karate guy was amazing. Yeah. He's kind of like the leader of this group. In a
straight up a Mortal Kombat character.
Even his moves.
Never wore a shirt. Like you could definitely tell. What is the guy from Mortal Kombat?
Liu Kang.
Was it Liu Kang? Yes.
Yeah.
He's straight up Liu Kang. Like and they even made it a point that his mouth never matched what he was saying.
Yeah. I don't even know if that was on purpose. That may not have been on purpose.
I thought it was because everyone else it worked.
It's very true. It's very true. But you never know with movies like this.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was they broke him out and they decide to form this resistance to try to fight back. They get captured and get sent into like a gladiator arena where Manborg fights this gigantic stop motion animation creature thing, like this big giant hell minion cyborg, or it's not even a cyborg. This was just like a creation, like a monstrosity. And then he gets taken back by a scientist. And I'm not going to spoil the big reveal about this scientist, except for the fact that he is also played by Adam Brooks, aka the dad from Psycho Goreman. And he's sitting there talking to him, explaining things to him, and Manborg goes, "You'll never get away with this." And the doctor goes, "I'll ask the questions here." So he just goes, "What?" And it was another one of those amazing, like, no just tracking
way
of the
louder
volume.
Way louder than it should have been.
Oh yeah, and then there was, of course, there was the brother and the sister.
But were they brother and sister? Because, like, not to like super spoil anything, but one of the people that was also fighting for the demon army was also a sister. Was she a sister of the brother as well? I was very unclear about the relationships between those people.
See, I thought I remembered them two being brother and sister because we made the comment of how they had zero connection in their accents, because his was like a New Zealand accent and hers sounded like she was from like Chicago or something. And we were like, wait, they don't even sound like they're from anywhere remotely close to the same area.
Well, the thing is they did make a reference to being like, he did make a reference to that being a sister, but also there was another girl, and was she also his sister? Because he didn't really reference it like she did. Like, she was very emotionally connected to this other girl, whereas he didn't really seem to have any connection to the other girl.
Right. Maybe. I think it may have been like a half sibling type of situation, maybe.
That very well could be.
Because you come to find out that the one girl was the sister as well, and then there was like the awesome battle between them two. She actually turned into a semi-terrifying looking monster.
Oh yeah.
I completely forgot about that until just now, but she did. Like, they turned her into something that was actually relatively unsettling. If you're watching it, you're like, that is
Yeah,
creepy.
I forgot about that. But yeah, they did a really good job with like the costumes and stuff. If I ever had the chance to ask somebody, I would definitely ask if the same costume for the Draculon was was adapted to make Psycho Goreman,
There were
because
some similarities.
they're not the same, but there are some similarities that you just go,
Yeah.
they kind of look like they could be brothers. I almost like in my head canon, I almost want to be, or I almost want to think that that is like a Psycho Goreman was like a prequel almost.
Right? Right, yeah, because this was all post-apocalyptic type of thing. Like,
Yeah.
I've kind of started wanting to lean towards the theory that I've created in my own head that Psycho Goreman was the great evil in our universe. Draculon was the great evil of hell, and there's gonna be like another great evil of heaven, kind of like Doom, like how Doom did that with Doom
Well,
Eternal.
there was the Templars.
The
The
Templars are
Templars.
pretty close. They look like angels.
I mean, they were kind of the great evil of heaven,
Yeah,
to some degree, because while they were good, they were not good.
yeah,
They
yeah,
like
because there was the meat cube thing. It
mm,
little bit of backtracking to Psycho Goreman. The Templars, the one that came to hunt Psycho Goreman down, in order to disguise herself to look like somebody from Earth, she just snatched up a random woman, turned her into a meat cube, slammed it on a table, and then rubbed the blood on herself, and she turned into that person. And it was really funny
mhm.
watching her little like round table of people. I can't remember what they were called. They were something completely different. But there was some kind of like name for them. And they all just looked shocked and appalled. It was like, especially the machine one, whose jaw just went.
Just the character design. I would love to see a prequel to Psycho Goreman, just like in the extended universe. Like if they did something like that, that would be absolutely amazing, because they were some really interesting characters, and I would have loved to seen a lot more from those characters.
Same. I would like to see. I mean, I could honestly see like a mini series being made of like some of the individual smaller characters of the Paladins Obsidian and such, and I could see there being like a whole actual movie built around the lore of how Psycho Goreman came to get his power, because
Hmm.
they were really interesting stories beginning to be told. To only
Yeah.
have them ripped away by Mimi. I know we backtracked and
Yeah.
digressed a little bit, but we want this. This is something we want.
Yes. Yes. We will fight tooth and nail to get a prequel
Yeah, if we have to do a
to Psycho
Kickstarter, we'll
Goreman.
help.
Yeah.
We,
I
we'll, we'll
will.
chip in $10.
I will promote the shit out of it.
Well,
I'll do everything I can.
there was one more little tidbit of the Kostanski experience that we went through, and we're still what's crazy is we're still not done with our Kostanski experience. We just have another title that's going to be better suited for a later episode. But this one, we also had Laser Ghosts 2: Return to Laser Cove.
So this was a really interesting, I want to say movie, because it really wasn't a movie. It was like it was like, not somebody, I guess Steve Kostanski, but they shot basically a trailer for a movie, but it was a 10-minute trailer that also told the entire story. It just wasn't a very like easy flowing story.
Right. It was
It
shot like a movie trailer, but long enough to cover the whole story.
Yeah, yeah, and if you get a chance, look it up on YouTube. It's only 10 minutes, and it is definitely worth a watch. It was a gem.
Oh yeah, yeah. We didn't get a whole lot of context to Laser Ghost 1 out of this situation, because as far as I know,
It
there's
doesn't
not.
exist.
Yeah, there's not a Laser Ghosts 1, which is what makes it great. It kind of goes in line with the whole Thanksgiving to Thanksgiving 3 thing, where like Thanksgiving 2 doesn't exist, but it exists within the universe of Thanksgiving 3. So it's like it I want to say there's another one that did something very similar where they jumped straight to 3, but the video game McPixel. McPixel did the same thing. They jumped straight from 1 to 3 and didn't even make an actual 2. And that's kind of what this feels like. It feels like they just didn't make a 1. They were like, we're just going to get really weird with this. And under the assumption that there is a pre-existing thing, there's not. But again, I'll set up a crowdfunder
Well,
to get a full space or Laser Ghost 1.
Oh yeah, or Laser Ghost 3.
Or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Skip 3
Yeah, because
altogether.
they do make a lot of references to returning to Laser Cove, but also never actually explain what Laser Cove is
Mm-hmm.
or like anything that's going on. Like the beauty of that is there's really no context. It sort of jumps around and it's really funny, it's really good, it's entertaining. And if you look at it as just like a movie trailer where they give you like some things but not really like understanding the context, it's really good. It's definitely worth 10 minutes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, and when we say it's good, we are speaking purely like objectively here because we feel it's good. If you go and look at the quality of it, it's not at all. It looks like one of those like cheap Blockbuster DVD or VHS tapes from like the mid 90s of that movie. I don't know if you remember this, but Blockbuster always had those like B horror movies where the cover art looked amazingly terrifying. Then you'd pop the movie in and the quality was just trash like through the whole thing. It was awful. Similar concept, I feel like, to something like that in terms of quality.
Yeah, wasn't it from like 2011 or something like that, or 2007?
I think it was 08.
It's a lot older.
Yeah, it was like 08, and don't you say 08's a lot older. But
I mean,
don't you do this to me. No, but yeah,
I was graduating college in 08, so
I was coming out of high school. But yeah. So it was 08, I'm pretty sure, and Manborg was 2011, and then Psycho Goreman was like 2020.
Yeah,
it came out much later. But when you look at the quality difference of just the production value from like say Laser Ghost or even Manborg to Psycho Goreman, you get Stephen Kostanski money, and he can make a hell of a film.
Oh yeah,
like a great film. And kind of to wrap up the little talk on Kostanski, what we were going to discuss on a later episode, not all of the things that he makes are like not great quality, but still like really fun to watch. He has a movie out that a lot of people who are fans of like cosmic horror style stuff and Lovecraftian things called The Void, which is regarded as one of the better cosmic horror movies out there, one of the better like true to kind of Lovecraft. And we're going to be discussing that on a later episode because we're going to have a whole episode about that. And so we're actually going to carry this Stephen Kostanski experience into another episode, which is kind of interesting. But watching these movies wasn't all we did over the last couple of weeks. We got out and about, went and had some disappointment and then some fun.
Yeah, it was redeemed.
Yeah, the day was saved, if you will.
Yes, yeah. I would say. So we went to the Oddities and Obscurities Expo up in Tulsa, and is that what it was called?
Yeah, Oddities and Curiosities Expo.
Curiosities. That's the word I messed up. But yeah, so we went in there and to start the day off, we got really excited because we thought we accidentally walked in the wrong door and got in for free. So we walked in and we were like, oh man, they didn't charge us or anything. Well, it turns out we went to the wrong part of the expo hall and we just went to a flea market, which was
it's a big
okay.
flea market.
It was a pretty big flea market. We walked by it. It was I don't know. We didn't
have
really
a lot of
stop
foot traffic too.
Yeah. So
but we found our way around.
Yeah. So we ended up like figuring out where we were supposed to go, and we went and paid, and it was like $15 per person, which was a little high, but we were like, you know what? It's an expo. We'll check it out. Like we've been to TwitchCon and stuff like that. Expos tend to be expensive. So we went in there and we started walking around and checking it out, and we realized that it's a lot of shops. It was a lot of like taxidermy stuff. It was a lot of stuff in formaldehyde, like animals in formaldehydes, a lot of skulls. We described it as it was a goth farmer's market.
100%. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, so it was like a lot of places, a lot of things to look at where you could purchase stuff. But when we actually got through it all, we were just like, okay, so it was really just $15 per person to go in and shop.
Yeah, it was literally just paying to go to a separate flea market.
Yeah, and it was like a very specialized flea market that you spend $15 to get into, and there was like another little area where there was like a circus freak show museum. There was like another $7, and there was probably at least an hour's worth of line, and we were like, yeah, I don't know about that. I'm not. I don't know that I'll be okay with that. And then there was also there's a guy up on the stage and he was doing tricks and stuff, but it was really nothing really special. I don't
Yeah.
know that it would have been worth $15 to check out. So it's kind of one of those things that we went there, we checked it out, and it was okay. It was
Yeah.
not. If it was $5, I would have been like, oh yeah, that was cool. But 15 was just really high for that.
Right. Yeah. So like the guy on stage, it was essentially like what we caught him doing was some of those, like, he was a smaller guy, but he was doing a lot of those strongman, like power team type things you see happen, like ripping phone books and whatnot, which a lot of people who know those things know that it's primarily like more technique than anything. So it was one of those, like, if you don't know how these things work and the techniques behind them, then it was kind of impressive seeing this kind of smaller dude rip this phone book in half. So, I mean, I understand the show and everything, but it's like, it's nothing we had never seen before. And it was just like a small little kind of thing. And there was some cool stuff. Don't get me wrong. There was like some cool stuff for sale all throughout. There's some really neat things. But a lot of it was priced like you would see it, something like a flea market for like unique things. And we had already paid to get in. So it was one of those, it was a bit of a letdown.
Mhm.
But we made up for it. We made up for it when we left. First off, we got the golden driller, the old
Yeah, the Grundle driller.
the old Grundle. So we mentioned in our episode 0 intro episode about Atlas Obscura, and this is listed in there. He's known as the Golden Driller. He's a big statue that's kind of like a commemorative of the oil industry in Tulsa or in the Oklahoma area in general, which is why like the Tulsa baseball team is called the Tulsa Drillers kind of stuff. But he's this gigantic statue of a driller, and he's packing no heat in the front. Go ahead and get that out the way.
Mhm.
And you can walk right up under it. So I got a big old picture of the Grundle, which you can see on our socials at into_the_obscure, which will be in the description below. Cheap plug.
Mhm.
And I also got a picture hugging his giant foot. And
Yeah.
Wingles got a couple of pictures of him as well.
Yeah, he definitely had one of the most awkwardly saggy asses I've ever seen.
We thought he pooped himself.
Yeah, honestly, like in order to get that much pooper droop, you gotta shit your pants. I don't know what else you got going on.
The old
It was
pooper droop.
it was like his back just kept going down, and then there was just like a little sag at the bottom. It was weird. It was weird, and it had to have been a big load because he's what, probably 50, 60 feet tall. Like, he's a big guy.
Yeah, big old statue.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, that's
he's a big dude. That was a lot of dumper.
mhm.
But after that, we decided to go explore around kind of the Brady Arts District of Tulsa, which there's a lot of stuff connected to, including the
Mhm.
Center of the Universe, which we posted about, which you had never seen before. I'd been there a couple of times, but you had never gone.
Yeah.
How would you
Yeah,
describe your
yeah,
experience?
Center of the Universe is interesting. It's I would definitely not say. I would say if you're in Tulsa, check it out. I
Mhm.
would not like definitely go out of your way to go check out the Center of the Universe. It's
Right.
kind of a neat phenomenon where if you stand in the center and you talk, it actually like echoes back to you louder than you said anything, or louder than you're speaking. So it's kind of a weird thing of like if you're wearing headphones that you're listening to yourself, and it's just a little off, like a little off, like offset or something like that, so you can kind of hear yourself talking. It is really hard to talk and concentrate while that's happening.
Yeah.
Um, it Hearing yourself, it's almost like when somebody has like speakers going through their microphone when you're trying to talk to them and it's echoing back at you. It's really disorienting
Yeah, it's
in
hard to
that
form
sense.
like a coherent thought, like a coherent
Mhm.
sentence, because you're hearing yourself, and it's like you're trying to literally talk over yourself, and it's very strange. And a lot of it has to do with these like semicircle pieces that surround it. They have this weird like design to them that causes sound waves to
Waves.
get pushed back at you. And so it's really interesting because you don't even have to talk loud. You could just sit there and just be like having a conversation, and it does. It
Mhm.
just boom, echoes back at you. And then there's also like a statue, like this really interesting art project that's there on site. It's called the Artificial Cloud, which we also, like I said, everything we're talking about here, we actually posted about on social, so you could actually go get visual aids to look at what we're talking about here. But the statue is called like the artificial cloud, and what was ironic about it was strictly made as almost like a statement of how people would spend more time looking at an artificial cloud that was rusting than actually looking at real clouds. Like we ended up, I did some digging on it, and that was actually like the statement behind that statue being made, which I thought was really interesting.
Was that the big tower with the bell on it?
It was that,
Or
yeah.
is that
It was the one. It was that big metal statue, or like the big metal little statue thing we walked around as we were walking up to the center of the universe that had that. Like on one side it had all the airplanes, and on the other side it had all the people, and then like it had that spike that come all the way up with the cloud at the top, and it was
okay.
Yeah, it's like right there on site.
Yeah, it was like a big metal obelisk looking thing.
Yes, that thing. And then also like right there on the premises is the old Union Railroad Depot, which we didn't go inside this because they weren't open at the time, but it's actually home to the Oklahoma Jazz Hall of Fame now. That's what's in that building, is the Jazz Hall of Fame, which Tulsa, Oklahoma actually has like a pretty big history in jazz that dates back all the way to another thing that we visited to the Tulsa Race Massacre that happened on Black Wall Street, which we went and also did some exploring around, did some learning and educating ourselves on that as well.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good transition into that, which was actually pretty interesting because I'm from Florida, so we don't hear about everything, but I'd actually never heard about that. And I feel like that's one of those historical events that isn't really touched on near as much as it should. It's kind of like the Trail of Tears or something like that, where it's kind of like a embarrassing, or the World War II internment camps and stuff. Yeah, where it's like kind of a embarrassing moment in American history. So they just kind of skim right over that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because like I'm from here. I'm from Oklahoma, and we come to find out that apparently some high schools do teach about it, but I never learned about it in high school. Like we were never taught that. We were taught about the Trail of Tears and things. You know, we were taught a lot about the 5 civilized tribes and some of the treaties and stuff, but we were never once taught in my school about the Tulsa Race Massacre. I ended up learning about that on my own, which is pretty wild. It's gained a lot of momentum in today's world because we just passed the centennial. Plus, it was actually talked about in the Watchmen TV series on HBO, and that kind of brought it to a lot of people's attention. They're like, "Wait, this was a thing?" Because again, like I mean, hell, they don't teach it in half the schools in Oklahoma. They probably don't teach it elsewhere either. And it was kind of a big deal. Like we won't go into all the details of the history of it because it's a pretty in-depth thing. But we did do a lot of learning. We got a lot of pictures of the things there that actually are very educational as well, and put them on the socials. But it's something I definitely recommend looking into because it's a completely like almost discarded portion of American history, not just Oklahoma history, that cannot be like it's one of those things like you can't let it be forgotten. Kind of thing.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely a huge tragedy, and where Tulsa was building a lot of culture, and like you said, jazz, and has a big history in jazz and stuff like that. That was kind of like they were going down a path and then just cut that path off by basically destroying an entire section of the city.
Yeah, burned it all to the ground, which an interesting little thing you can do while you're there, if you go and kind of visit and want to learn and educate yourself on it as well, is all of the businesses that were affected at the time. There's actually a plaque in the sidewalk in front of the buildings that they existed showing what business was there at the time that it all happened. So
I don't know if I got any footage of the little plaques on the ground. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think I actually filmed any of the little plaques on the ground.
I got a few pictures of them, of some of the ones that were there. I don't think I posted them yet, but I kind of wanted to do a whole post about what we kind of learned there as well, so that'll be coming soon to our socials. But after that, we kind of capped off our trip with an interesting roadside attraction that's part of the historic Route 66 trail as well. Like, so we kind of went from that and decided to hop back in the truck and head up to see something that's mighty strange to be in the middle of Oklahoma. The old blue whale of Katusa.
which surprisingly, Oklahoma actually has a law against hunting whales.
It does, and part of me thinks that this is a reason that this has to play a factor.
I gotta feel like people are getting drunk and shooting at the whale.
Dude, that may actually not be wrong. So outside of Tulsa, there's a little town called, or it's not even really a little town. It's a little suburb called Katusa. It's where the Hard Rock Casino is in the area. And out there is considered one of the Route 66 little not landmarks, but little roadside attractions. And it's called the Blue Whale of Katusa. And this man had built as an anniversary gift for his wife this giant blue whale in their pond. And the reason being, she collected whale figurines. And what was it, 2 years he spent building this thing?
Yeah, 2 years, and he mixed all the concrete by hand in a 5-gallon bucket.
1 5-gallon bucket at a time. He made this gigantic blue whale. And the only help he got was from his friend who was a good welder who helped build kind of the framework of the skeleton with rebar, which once you get on it, you realize is kind of sketchy looking. Because you can walk right up into it. And a lot of people, there were some people fishing off of it and stuff. It's an interesting little thing. I would like to start seeing more of those little Route 66 roadside things, because those are kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty big whale. Like, I don't know, it's probably not very to scale as far as whales go, and I'm pretty sure the only thing that made it a quote unquote blue whale is that it was painted blue. It didn't look anything like an actual blue whale.
Right.
But the mouth and everything walking into it was basically 2 stories. Like, there's a ladder in it. You can go up to like the second area, and I guess it'd be like 1 story with an attic sort of thing, where there was like a little area you could get up on top, and there were ladders and stuff, which I wonder for like liability reasons why they don't have like a do not climb this or take the ladders down. Like, I'm actually really surprised. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm really surprised that they don't have anything deterring you from the ladders.
Yeah, because there are 2 slides coming off of it too that allow you to slide into the pond, but there are distinct no swimming signs all over the place.
So if you go down the slide, you just have to drown. That's the rule. You're not allowed to swim. If you could crawl across the bottom or walk underwater, you're good.
Yeah, or if you can just like float without moving and just hope that you get to the side, you'll be all right. But yeah, it's a fun little place, or a fun little interesting thing. There's a whole plaque that kind of gives you the history on it, and to plug it once more, the picture of it's actually on our socials. You can go and actually read a little bit of information on this from the actual Blue Whale Katusa site. So I'd highly recommend checking that out.
Yeah, if you're passing through. Also, I will note, it's probably one of those things that unless you're in the area, it might not be worth a whole lot of like going out of your way. But if you're driving by, you stop and check it out. It's kind of interesting. There was also some other like weird stuff. Like, they had like a Noah's Ark that looked like it was out of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
And then there were also like some weird mushrooms that had like weird lampshades on them. I don't exactly know what was going on there, but I feel like this guy just really liked building things. But the only one that was maintained was the Blue Whale at Katusa.
Yeah, because there was also a weird cage-looking thing that...
Oh, yeah!
And there was no explanation for any of that. There was none. There was like zero explanation on what any of that was. No idea.
We created a little headcanon that the cage was a lion's cage, but there's no lion in it. It was like a lion exhibit, but there's no lion in it because they built the bars too far apart and they just lost the lion.
Yeah, the lion just got out.
They don't know where the lion is. It's like, we built the lion cage. We did not build it well, so we don't have a lion.
Exactly. Well, it's kind of like, so the way I kind of imagine it is like, say, you remember how there's a Reese's, and then there was like the Lil Reese's that was like a smaller version of it that was off to the side. The store we passed. I imagine it was kind of like Joe Exotic's Lil Joe's Wildlife Park. And so it was like Joe Exotic just didn't maintain it. That's what my guess is. He was trying to get in on that Tulsa crowd with like a single wild cat.
Yeah,
and the bars were just too far apart.
Yeah, they didn't have the budget, so they tried to space out the bars too much, and it just didn't work.
Not at all. But I believe it's already time to wrap this thing up, and I hope you enjoyed our little romp through the Stephen Kostanski experience as we continue that on into an episode a couple of weeks from now. One thing I would like to note, I was going to do this at the beginning of the show and kind of forgot. We originally said we were going to do the DreadX kind of episode today. We chose to move that to next week because it's kind of lines up with the halfway to Halloween thing, and it also lines up pretty closely to the release of DreadX 5, which I'm really excited about. So we decided to push DreadX out a week and go over the Stephen Kostanski experience today, plus our Oddities Expo.
Yeah, so we would say check out the DreadX games. DreadX 5 is coming out. And currently there are 4 other DreadX games. I would highly recommend checking them out. I was going to ask you a question about the other DreadX games and leading into this one, but we will save that for the next episode where we will expand more on the DreadX series.
Yeah, because I'll be actually going over my top 5 favorite DreadX games from all of the collections. And then we'll also discuss some interesting stuff about DreadX that some of the games got turned into full-scale games from the DreadX collection. So that's also a really interesting fact that I'd like to go over, because some of these games turn out to be true gems and deserve to be made into a full game. But we'll discuss more of that next week.
Mm-hmm.
So, Wingles, would you like to wrap us up this week?
Thank you, everyone, for viewing our podcast and liking and following everywhere, and being a part of the Steve Kostanski experience. I really appreciate you guys. Feel free to check us out on YouTube, everywhere where podcasts are located. Also, Rev and I both have podcasts and social media and things like that. You can definitely check those out and talk to us there. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have any questions or anything you would like to talk about. If we mention something that you were a part of or anything like that, we would love to hear from you. You would also, if you have any recommendations, do you have anything you want us to check out? Because right now we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, but we're definitely open to recommendations. If you got something out there that you think we should be watching, feel free to send us a message to let us know.
Awesome. Yeah, it's kind of weird thinking about how, like, we didn't even talk about a single video game this week.
I think you're right. We didn't at all.
No,
I guess next week's episode will be will be almost entirely video game.
Right. Yeah. So that'll be interesting.
Are we doing the DreadX stuff next week, and then the week after that will be the what is it, the
Cosmic Horror Lovecraft one, which is crazy because this week and next week's episode will both tie into that episode. So we're accidentally rolling these things into being related. So look at us go on accident.
Yeah, you got to watch these in order. Go back to episode 0 and figure out what the hell we're talking about.
Yes, and then come back, watch episode 1, and then episode 2, the Stephen Kostanski Experience, which sounds like I don't know, like the Alan Parsons Project or something. It sounds like an 80s band or a 70s band.
Well, there was also the what was it, the Jamie Kennedy Experience?
Oh,
the
Experiment.
TV show? Oh, that was Experiment. Yeah.
But the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Jimi Hendrix had his own experience as a group as well. So there was that.
Yeah, and then there was also like the one that was like the other guy that was like basically the same thing as the Jamie Kennedy Experiment, but it was like the Cabanero effect or something. He sounded like some
Anthony
sort of
Cabanero or whatever.
Yeah.
He sounded like an Italian dish or a spicy pepper. But thank you all for joining us this week. We will see you next week, and we hope you enjoyed.